You ever have one of those moments where your whole world shifts in an instant? For me, it happened on a Wednesday morning. I walked into the office like I had every day for the past 30 years, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, already thinking about the emails I needed to respond to. And then, just like that, I was called into a meeting. A short, cold conversation, a handshake, a severance package, and by noon, I was out the door. 30 years. Gone. I sat in my car for a long time, just gripping the steering wheel, staring at the building that had been my second home for decades. I kept waiting to wake up from a bad dream. I had given them everything. Late nights, weekends, sacrificed vacations, missed birthdays, and in the end, I was just another name on a list. I felt disposable. I didn't tell anyone at first. My husband knew, of course, but I couldn't bring myself to say the words out loud to anyone else. What would I even say? Hey, guess what? After 30 years of loyalty, they threw me out like last week's leftovers. So I did what anyone in my position would do. I panicked. I spent hours refreshing job boards, rewriting my resume, convincing myself that I just needed to find something fast. But here's the thing. The world had changed. I was 55, competing with 25-year-olds who spoke in acronyms I didn't understand. Job interviews felt like a test I hadn't studied for. And worst of all, I started to believe that maybe I was too old, too outdated, that maybe my best years were behind me. One night after another round of rejection emails, my daughter sat down next to me and asked, "Mom, if you could do anything right now, what would it be?" And I laughed. Because seriously, who thinks about that at 55? That's the kind of question you ask a teenager, not someone with a mortgage and a fading 401k. But she looked at me and said, "You always told me that losing something makes room for something better. So what if this is your something better?" I didn't have an answer. But for the first time since losing my job, I stopped thinking about what I should do and started wondering about what I actually wanted to do. The first thing I did, I signed up for a pottery class. Not because I wanted to become an artist or start a business, just because I wanted to. And sitting there, hands covered in clay, creating something just for myself, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. So I kept going. I tried yoga. I picked up my old camera and started taking photos again. I travelled, not for work, not for anyone else, just for me. And somewhere along the way I realised something. For 30 years, my whole identity had been tied to my job. My worth was measured in performance reviews and promotions. And when that was taken away, I thought I was gone too. But I wasn't. I was still here. And for the first time in decades, I was living on my terms. You know what's funny? I spent years believing that security came from having a steady job, a title, a routine. But real security, real happiness, it comes from knowing that even if life knocks you flat on your back, you can still get up and rebuild because you are not your job. You are not your title. You are not the years you gave to a company that barely remembers your name. You are so much more than that. I won't lie and say everything is perfect now. I still have moments of fear. Moments where I think, did I make a mistake? But then I look at my life, the one I'm creating for myself, and I know the answer. So if you're listening to this and you've ever felt like I did, lost, discarded, unsure of what comes next, I want you to hear this. Losing something doesn't mean your story is over. Sometimes it means you're finally free to write the next chapter. And trust me, it can be a beautiful one.
Whispers in the breeze, find a place to belong.